Good evening. We are glad you're here this evening. We know some other folks may come in the back door and the rain's bringing them in a little bit slower, but we're glad that you're here. I want to say hello and introduce myself. I'm Doug Croft. I'm with the Chamber of Commerce, and we are very glad to host this event this evening. I want to take just a minute to share a couple of thoughts, and then we'll get on with the program. The Chamber's mission is about strengthening the local economy and improving our quality of life, which is an ongoing process, and what is required in any community to do that is great civic leadership. So that comes from business leaders, it comes from volunteers and all of our great organizations, it comes from elected officials as well. So we put a lot of faith and trust and confidence and hope and every other adjective in civic leadership to carry a community forward. And so we particularly respect and appreciate the four of you being here this evening and offering yourselves and being part of civic leadership, being willing to run, being willing to serve. So thank you very much for that. We also appreciate the K-West folks here. This will be recorded and be visible both online and through the television channel. So thank you for that. Before we jump into it, I want to invite Elizabeth Walker to come forward. Elizabeth, as you all know, is the city secretary. In that role, part of her responsibility is also election administrator. So there's a couple of tweaks and changes to things this year, and she's going to give you an update.
Good evening, Doug. Good evening, everyone. Thank you very much for having me. Just a few moments of your time. This is a presentation that I had given to the City Commission earlier in the summer, but it certainly bears repeating. There are a couple of new initiatives that we will be implementing for this election on November 7th in partnership with Hidalgo County Elections Department. And I think the theme of all these changes really is about expanding the accessibility for our voters. So a couple of ones, you've already passed by one of them. I hope you took note. We've installed ADA doors at this polling location because the polling machines will be in this room for early voting as well as November 7th. For those voters who are having difficulty even making it to the door to use the ADA door, for those who will be using curbside voting, this year the county will have what I'm referring to as the Sonic button. When you pull up to the curbside, you'll be able to push the button to alert the election judge inside that you're at the curb and you're requesting that the ballot be brought to you at the curb. So that's an additional service that will be offered this year. We will have all new machines this year, if you haven't already had the opportunity to play with one, at the expense of about $6 million by the county. They look very much like an iPad. They function very much like an iPad. Don't make the same mistake I did when I played with one. They're not quite like an iPad, though. You can't use your finger to scroll to the next page. You still have to use the stylus. But one of the great benefits, I think, about this new computer machine for voting is that now our voters will be able to cast even their provisional ballots using the machine. So in the past, for example, if you showed up at the wrong polling location for your precinct and perhaps you cast a provisional ballot and you did so on paper, you will not have to do that this year. You'll be able to vote right then and there on the machine. It'll just be tabulated separately and counted separately by the early voting ballot board at a later time. Now, on to one of the other changes that we're implementing for this year. In the past, you might have to vote a provisional ballot because you showed up to the wrong polling location. That should not be an issue this year either. This year, the county, with special permission from the state of Texas, is implementing county-wide polling initiative. Now, in some ways, we're already familiar with this. In Hidalgo County, if you live anywhere in Hidalgo County, during the early voting period, the 2 weeks prior to Election Day, you could vote at any polling location anywhere in the county. So if you, for example, lived in Weslaco, but you commuted that awful commute every day to McAllen, and you worked in McAllen, and it was easier for you on your lunch break to just vote at a McAllen polling location, you've been able to do that. Well, this year, for the very first time, they're going to extend the same concept on Election Day itself. So for the 2 full weeks of the early voting period, as well as November 7th itself, if you are registered in Hidalgo County, you can vote at any polling location anywhere in Hidalgo County, anywhere that's most accessible, most convenient to you. And the last thing I wanted to note is, though this is a constitutional amendment election, we will be running full extended hours for this election. That's 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., Monday through Saturday, 10 to 3 on Sunday, again 7 to 7, Monday through Friday, and then 7 to 7 on election day itself. So you can go anywhere in Hidalgo County to vote. You can go almost any time of a 12-hour day that's most convenient for you to cast your ballot. I mean, we look forward to seeing you. If it's most accessible for you to come here, we look forward to seeing you here. The Business Visitor and Event Center will be the polling location in Weslaco for November 7th. Thank you very much, and best of luck to all the candidates.
Thank you, Elizabeth, and for all the work you do to administer. So I've got my phone in my hand, and you know what I'm going to ask you to do in a minute. I'm going to use mine a little bit because I'm going to walk around and take some photos and try not to be disruptive, but mine's already muted, so I'm asking you to do the same. So if you have your phone, go ahead, put it on silence right now, and I know it's going to vibrate. I know you can look at it, but it won't interrupt somebody who's trying to share their thought or be picked up on the radio signals and things like that. So if you don't mind doing that. And now I'm going to turn it over to Michael Rodriguez, who will be the moderator from the Monitor and Mid-Valley Town Crier. We appreciate you doing this again this year. And you've got a different mic.
Thank you, sir. Make sure this works. Can you guys hear me okay? Good? Awesome. All right, so thank you guys for stopping by. I know it's important to be here, but it was raining and all, so the fact that you're here means that you really, really care, especially the 4 candidates tonight. So we have District 2 and 3 candidates, running, and here we have incumbent Greg Kerr and challenger Miguel Wise, District 3 incumbent Olga Noriega, and challenger J.P. Rodriguez. So I explained to them earlier today that the way we're going to set this up is the way we always do it, where each candidate's going to get an opportunity to answer a question first. We're going to go down the line, beginning with Mr. Kerr, and at some point I think we do have 9 questions. So they'll be answering all questions. And they have, 2 minutes for an opening statement and 2 minutes for a closing statement. It's pretty standard. And is it 1 minute to answer the questions? I believe so. So, 1 second. Oh, and just a note, Mr. Kerr is not feeling well today. I think he's, what are you coming down with, a flu, something like that? Yeah, I would keep my distance if I were you. Yeah, that's why I bring it up. I went for a fist bump earlier. I totally felt... Actually, that's not a bad idea. I don't know if we have another mic around here. No, do we? No? Okay. I guess no. We're good. We're good. Just don't get it too close to your mouth, man. And one last thing. Laura Espinosa from the Chamber. Thank you, by the way. Laura is going to be our timekeeper for tonight. I don't think I mentioned that last year, and it would have been nice if I did. So on that note, I think, let me see if I can get my notes in order. Okay. And we're going to go ahead and begin with opening statements, and let's start with Commissioner Kerr.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you all for being here. My name is Greg Kerr, and I'm seeking re-election as your District 2 Weslaco City Commissioner. When I ran the first time, the big issues were streets, water lines, and the water plant. And I'm proud to say that those things have only begun to be addressed since I've been on the commission for the last 3 years. From the time I took office through the present, the city is approaching nearly 12 miles of streets paved all over town, 2.5 miles of water lines replaced, and more than 3,300 feet of sewer lines, things that were just ignored by the commissions in the past. We've also experienced dramatic decreases in violent crime and property crime, and I hope that you've seen the improvement over the last 3 years thanks to the efforts of the City Commission and the employees that we have. To put that in comparison, during my opponent's last year as mayor, the city paved 0.5 mile's worth of streets, a mere 1,500 feet of water lines, and 0 feet of sewer lines, so next to nothing. The highlights from Mr. Wise's term do include laying off civil service employees, almost $20,000 spent by Mr. Wise in travel and training, which is about 10 times more than I've expended, and I've actually served a full term. And last but not least, a $40 million water plant that we are still burdened with today. And there are only 2 people on this stage right now that were on that commission when that tragedy was perpetrated on you, the citizens of Weslaco. I've been working hard now to undo the injustice and the decades of damage that that water plant has caused this community. As you hear the responses tonight, ask yourself why Mr. Wise is running against me and what it is that he thinks he can do better with the city than what the city has done since I've been in office. If he can do better, then why didn't he do it last time around? Elect leaders that make you proud. Leaders that do what is right and not what is popular. Leaders that do not treat the taxpayers with disdain and disrespect for how their tax dollars are spent. Let's move forward. Thank you.
Mr. Wise.
Thank you. First of all, I'd like to thank the Chamber for putting this event together. I think it serves a very vital purpose. I think all the citizens, Weslaco, the whole world can see it because it's placed on YouTube. So I want to thank you for putting this together. Second of all, I'd like to thank my wife and for helping me in public service for half of my adult life. And I'd like to thank the citizens who are present who show an interest in their government. You know me as a friend, you know me as a neighbor. I've been in Weslaco 57 years. I'm a husband, a father of 3 kids, been married 33 years. I'm an attorney, small business owner, a veteran. I'm an infantry officer. I jumped out of planes for the government. And I was a scoutmaster. People know me in this community. People know me as a neighbor. When you had a problem, you called me and it was resolved. Commissioner Kerr came from Harlingen. And he must still be in Harlingen because he doesn't realize, and must have been living in a closet because he didn't realize that when I got elected, 2 months, 2 months after I got elected, the audit showed we were 36,000 in the hole. You can't lay water lines. You can't pave streets. You can't do anything without money. We set out for a 5-year plan to increase our surplus by $5 million. We did it in 3 before I left. So we turned this big ship around. Somehow he wasn't here and noticed any of that happen. The fruits of what they're doing today is because of the hard work and the commitment that I had as mayor to turn this sinking ship around. And that's what it was. It was a sinking ship. I saw a need. I ran. I served more than my elected term. He says I left early. I served 3 years and 3 months for a 3-year term because the commission extended my term 6 more months. I saw an opportunity to run for judge, and I took it. After I'd completely served my 3 years and after we had resolved the issues that I thought, mostly the financial issues that the city had. So thank you all very much.
Thank you, Mr. Wise. We have Commissioner Noriega next.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you for being here. I would like to start by thanking God who has given me or has blessed me with the ability to be the leader that our constituents expect us to be. Secondly, I want to thank my husband, Rolando, and my daughters for standing by me and supporting me. They are my biggest supporters that I have. And I would also like to thank my amazing friends and supporters for continuing to support me. It has been my privilege to represent you as your city commissioner. I can honestly say that I still have the same drive that I had when I was first elected back in 2011. I seek my second re-election based on my record, and it speaks for itself. I will continue to offer strong civic leadership in actions and decisions that will continue to produce positive results. I am grateful for the opportunity granted to me by the constituents in District 3 to represent them. When first elected, I promised to work hard for all of us, and I have. I am confident that not only have I earned a second chance when I was reelected in 2014, but I also earned your respect and confidence as a public servant. With the challenges that I have already met, the history that I have lived, and the knowledge that I have acquired gives me the tools needed to achieve better results for our community. I will continue to serve you with a servant's heart to amplify your voice, and I will never forget that I am here to serve you. I humbly ask for your support to be our voice. Thank you.
And Mr. Rodriguez.
Good evening, everyone. My name is JP Rodriguez. First of all, I want to thank all of you, everybody that helped to make this event possible. And I want to give all the honor and glory to God, because without Him, I wouldn't be here today. And this is an opportunity that He's given to me. And I hope that that door will open for me to continue serving. I want to tell you a little bit about myself. I know I'm limited on time, but since I'm the new candidate, I've been in law enforcement public service for close to 20 years. This December will be 20 years. I proudly started my career here in Weslaco Police Department. I actually started as a dispatcher back in 1997, and one of the most amazing things I saw was I saw some great role models and officers that were out helping people, and I decided that I wanted to be a part of that. So I took the civil service test, and ever since then, it's been an amazing journey. Like I said, this December is going to be 20 years. This opportunity wouldn't be here today for me without my family support, my friends, my grandmother who planted that seed in me a long time ago to serve your community. She always told me that if you want to facilitate positive change, that you have to get involved. And at the time, I probably didn't understand, but I do understand today. The objectives of our campaign are very simple. It's about transparency, it's about accountability, and it's about fiscal responsibility. And most importantly, it's about family, because the decisions that a commissioner makes are going to have consequences if they're not made correctly, and we'll enjoy the fruits if they're made correctly, together as a community. So I just want to thank you all. I thank you for being here tonight, and thank you for supporting all of us.
I did forget to mention something earlier, and that's, I mention it every year, so it's not as if I anticipate something just by looking at the crowd. Obviously, I don't. But just for the sake of decorum, let's try and be as respectful as possible to the candidates while they're answering their questions. But you guys are great. I don't, like I said, anticipate any issues. So let's go ahead and begin, with that said, with Commissioner Kerr. And it's going to be, our first question is, and again, this is for all the candidates, what are Weslaco's major challenges and strengths?
Weslaco's major strength is its people. And I think that's evidenced by the number of you that are here today interested in being and learning about your community, your commission, and have an interest in seeing your commission and making sure that they're held accountable and doing well. So Weslaco's biggest strength is its people. I was blessed, and at the point, I came from Harlingen. I moved from Harlingen. I grew up in Harlingen. I moved to Weslaco, and this community has welcomed me and allowed me to succeed here and allowed me to serve you. And so I want to say thank you to the biggest strength that Weslaco has, which is its people. Weslaco still faces challenges with its political leadership. Though I believe that the commission is starting to move in the right direction, it took a $40 million water plant to wake people up. Unfortunately, we will be dealing with the remnants of that water plant for many years to come, thanks in part to two of the individuals sitting on this stage today. How do we fix that? Only you can do it. In this election and in the elections that follow, you need to be interested, you need to be informed, and you need to inform your friends and family. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Kerr. So, Mr. Wise, you're up.
Thank you. I think that one of the greatest strengths, we have a couple. One is location, location, location. We have some of the lower property values from McAllen, Edinburgh, and Harlingen. People live here and work in those towns. We're a great shopping hub. Everybody knows Weslaco as a place that they can go shopping in the Weslaco area. You have the Progreso Bridge, where people dine. They go dining, they go shopping. They don't go to Reynosa. They go to Progreso from all over the valley. We have some of the best community policing, EMS, and fire departments in the valley. We also have a solid school district and a hospital. I think those are our greatest strengths. The $40 million water plant, what Mr. Kerr doesn't know is I reduced that initial bid by $7 million. What he also doesn't know is I didn't vote for it. So it's just fake news that he's giving you all. The challenges, lack of multiple and cultural events and activities. I think one of the things we need to work to really protect a single-member district, which my opponent opposes, I think it's an attack on democracy, but more on that later. Thank you.
It wouldn't be a political forum in this day and age without mentioning fake news at some point. Thanks for being the man to do it, Mr. Wise. Yeah. Commissioner Noriega, I'm sorry. You're next.
Okay, I would have to say that our greatest strength, of course, it's citizens and our geographic location, which is in the middle of the valley. And our major challenge would be the citizens' demands with limited financial resources that we have.
Without a doubt, the greatest resource we have here in Weslaco is going to be the people. I've seen it at the sheriff's office. We take to heart that people are the greatest resource to facilitate change in a positive direction. And I think that our biggest challenge is definitely the drainage infrastructure. We've been block walking sometimes 3, 4, 5 times a week. And one of the things, the recurring theme is the drainage. And this is why one of the ideas that I have that I'm going to propose is a joint partnership between our community and our city to support public works. You know, just like we have clean sweeps, we can also have community initiatives where we go out and we support public works to keep those drains clear and free. It's not a long-term solution, but it's definitely something that it's preventative, it's proactive. So I think that's the biggest challenge we face right now is the drainage.
Thank you. Let's get the mic back to Mr. Wise for our next question. All right, let's keep it simple. What is the biggest challenge facing your district?
What is the biggest challenge facing the district? Well, there are a couple of things, but they all stem from water. One is the drainage issues. This city spent about $777,000 to do a comprehensive plan that included a drainage study. That's your tax dollars. Guess what the commission did? He was on the commission. They voted for the comprehensive plan, made a master plan, but not the drainage plan. They ignored it. Why? Because it would have impact fees on developers. Because the project would cost $300 million. But, you know, there's a saying, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. But you can't take that first bite until you pass that drainage study, that policy, which they conveniently ignored. The second issue is the water lines. He mentioned all these water lines, but they're not in District 2. In District 2, we have lines that are over 50 years old, 60, 70, 90 years old. These are lines that are made out of clay pipe that had a 50-year life expectancy. That's your water drink. That's a sewer that runs from your home. That's where the money needs to be spent in District 2.
Okay, the biggest challenge that I would say in my district also is the drainage. So today I would have to say it's drainage. I know that my area is on the historical north side of town, and I know that we have had many years of and years of flooding, and that goes way back. It's not something that just started. It's something that has happened for many, many years. And I know now that we do have a good city manager in there that has made more effort to see what the problems are and what could help it. One of the things that he did mention recently, because I know that we had a big rain, is that the canals that we have or the ditches, we've got 25 miles of ditches. They were not even half full, but yet the streets were flooding. And the problem that he says that was coming from it was the graded inlets that are not functioning well. Plus, there's a lot of 12-inch pipes or lines that need to be replaced or cleaned out. So I, been after that as to what can be done, and he did say that we have purchased already. It's in the process of coming in, and it's called a chain cutter nozzle and a floor cleaner nozzle. And what that's going to do is they're going to go in and unplug all the pipes that we have right now, which carries a lot of the debris, mud, roots, and grease. So even if you clean out all the inlets.
Sorry,
that are
Commissioner,
there, it's
but we
still
gotta
gonna be
move
a
on.
little bit difficult.
I'm sorry, we got to move on.
Okay, thank you.
Ooh. Yes, go ahead.
Okay.
Mr. Rodriguez.
I'll have to agree that the drainage is the biggest challenge. I don't think it's the biggest challenge only in District 2, but in different parts throughout the city. And one of the things that we've seen when we go out and we meet with the homeowners is they're still suffering from some of the devastation that was caused 2 years ago from 2015. There's good friends of mine that had up to 2.5 feet of water in their homes, and they're still trying to make those repairs. And, you know, we've gone out and we've tried to help as many individuals as we can, but drainage infrastructure, I think, is the biggest challenge. But it's also, that's just one of the components, I think, that we have to take a serious look at, and we have to look at some short-term and long-term solutions, and we also have to look at how much it's going to cost us. And I think we have to communicate. We have to be transparent about those issues. We can't just kind of pretend that it's not there or not say anything. We have to have town hall meetings. We have to invite people to come in and learn about the drainage issues. Thank you.
And Commissioner Kerr.
I want to first point out that, yeah, I represent the entire city. I don't just represent District 2, and I receive more phone calls from people outside of the district than I do within the district. But having said that, I agree with everybody up here that drainage is the biggest challenge that we're facing in the city, and it's the one we need to devote the most resources to address. Commissioner Wise made the point that we have a $750,000 million drainage study, which I did not vote to purchase. And, you know, he says we're not implementing this. We got to spend $300 million to implement it. This is coming from a mayor who paved next to no streets, next to no water lines, no water line replacement, and no sewer line replacement, but he wants us to come up with $300 million to do drainage improvements. This indicates to me it's just a lack of business understanding or understanding of how to gain funds to do these things. So, yeah, it is drainage, and it's a problem for the entire district.
Thank you. Let's begin with Commissioner Noriega next. And of the many basic services provided to the citizens of the city, which services or where do you see room for improvement, if any?
I would have to say the drainage. You know, again, there's a lot of room for improvement, and that would be one of the things, or is one of the things that we are working very hard to, to fix. So it would have to be drainage, and that's one of the things that we are concentrating on.
Go ahead.
Well, I think one of the things our city employees they're doing a fantastic job. But we can always start those community initiatives to support them and work together to address some of the different concerns. One of the things I'd like to see is, I'd like to see our first responders initiate citizens, police, and fire academies. Because what it does is it helps to define who they are, who our first responders are, and what they do, and it helps us to connect with the people. And that is what we need, especially in this day and age where there's a lot of narratives out there. And I can tell you, working side by side with our first responders, that they're an amazing bunch of people. Is there malfeasance? Yes, in every profession. But it doesn't define who we are and what we do. That's just one of the things I'd like to propose with our department heads, with the fire and the police, if I get elected. And I have some other ideas, but of course I don't like to expose all my ideas just yet. So, thank you.
Commissioner Kerr?
There's always room for improvement in any city service that we provide, and we should be working to improve every kind of service that we provide to the city. But probably the biggest complaint I get, of all the complaints that I get, is basic customer service at City Hall. It's rare that a day goes by that I don't get a call complaining about somebody that may have been treated rudely, or maybe their concerns weren't met with respect. I think we've done a good job of trying to correct that trend, and Mr. Perez, our city manager, recognizes that we should treat our citizens as customers, because you are. We need to provide excellent customer service to you all. It's important that our staff understands that When the customer calls, you treat their request, even if you think it's a unreasonable request, you treat them with respect and dignity, and you resolve their issue if you can. We don't want anyone feeling like you can't contact City Hall to get an issue resolved. So customer service is something that I think the city ought to build on going forward.
Mr. Wise.
Yes, thank you. Again, though, I hate to bring this up, but you know, the city did spend $777,000. I wasn't mayor when they voted on it, but I'm glad they did. Now, Mr. Kerr, or Commissioner Kerr, was in office when the plan was issued, and they voted to ignore the drainage issue. So you can scream all you want, we have drainage and it needs to be addressed, but he's not willing to address it. And the only way you can address it is by passing the drainage plan. Sure, it's $300 million, but how do you eat the elephant? One bite at a time. You're not committed to have to spend $300 million. The water treatment plant, it's getting close to capacity on the south side. That needs to be looked at. I think we need to have development and celebration of the medical and health community, create a district where you do gateways, you do sidewalks, you do signage. Also medical and health related education and occupations where we have partnerships with them, and post-secondary student partnerships as well to bolster the healthcare profession in the Mid-Valley.
Next up, we have Mr. Rodriguez, and we're going to begin with the question, again, for everybody, on the importance of tourism and attracting visitors to Weslaco. How important do you see tourism and visitor attraction to Weslaco's economy, considering ecotourism, winter Texans, Mexican shoppers?
Well, the tourism is it's very important. What it does, it contributes to our local economy, and it helps to create stability financially for the city. When they're paying for lodging or for food at restaurants or for shopping, all that's going to contribute to our local economy. And we have some awesome shopping, we have some awesome restaurants, and if you haven't gone by, we've got some amazing nature parks also, some nature centers. I've been to the Valley Nature Center, I've been to Frontera Autobahn. So it's extremely important that we continue to attract tourism, especially ecotourism. There's a lot of people that come from from other states to look at our birds here in South Texas, our nature. It's an amazing town. We have so many resources. We have so many. It's a small town community with a big city atmosphere. I love this city. It was always my dream to move here. And yes, it's very important, ecotourism, and we need to continue to support it.
Vitally important is the answer. It's the reason that we fund institutions like the Chamber of Commerce, Frontera Autobahn, and the Valley Nature Center. It's the reason we work to incentivize Mexican shoppers to come over and shop and eat and stay here. Right here in our city, we have some of the best eco-tourist attractions in the country, and tourists come and spend money here, which translates to millions of dollars in revenue. Our proximity to Mexico opens up a door to an entire group that is willing to come here and spend and stay here. The city now understands the importance of funding institutions like the Chamber of Commerce, unlike during my opponent's term when funding for the Chamber was drastically decreased, which tells me that he does not understand the importance of the Chamber or chose to ignore it. So the answer is very important, and it's important to keep individuals on the commission who recognize and understand that importance instead of electing somebody who's going to revert back to the way it was before.
Mr. Wise.
Thank you. It's not only is it vital, but it's critical. Winter Texans, Mexican shoppers are critical and essential to the viability and sustainability of growth for our city, as well as the Mid-Valley. And if the Mid-Valley succeeds, Weslaco succeeds. Ecotourism. This county has the largest number of bird species in the world. People don't realize that. People come from all over the world, Japan, Australia, to come look at birds. Great. Bring all your money. We'd be happy to take it. One of the things we also need to do is target and cater to millennials. You know, millennials, the studies show that millennials measure success not by money, but by experiences. And certainly providing targeting them with Mexico, with things here in Weslaco are great. Now, yes, Commissioner Kerr can talk about all he wants about about the budget. Again, we were in the hole. We did not have money. Everybody took a hit. Police department, Robert Lopez is here. He can testify that they decided not to take a raise, the 3% rate, annual raise, because they were willing to take a hit too. So everybody took a hit. We did it all for the citizens of Weslaco.
Okay. I guess it's, that's the hardest part, to be the last one to speak, because everybody has already said everything, you know, but tourism is very important for us here in Weslaco. That's, you know, it brings outside monies, and people eat here in our restaurants, and people stay at our hotels. So it is very critical to have tourism here and support it.
Let's stick to that theme for our next question, and I believe we go back to Commissioner Kerr. Is there anything that you would change to strengthen Weslaco's attractiveness for business and residents?
Since I've been in office, the city has taken significant steps towards strengthening Weslaco's appeal toward businesses and residents alike. And that shows in the dramatic increase in property tax revenue that we've seen compared to when my opponent was mayor. Businesses, schools, and residents are now finding it safe again to come establish themselves here in Weslaco. During my opponent's last year on the commission, property tax revenues were right around $6.5 million. I'm proud to say that that number has grown to more than $9.2 million as I sit here today. And it's because of the growth we've seen in Weslaco in the last 3 years. This is true even though we have lowered your tax rate since I've been on the commission. What makes things difficult are our water rates, and you can thank my opponent, Commissioner Noriega, in part for making them the highest, if not one of the highest, in the valley. He says he didn't vote for it. Ask him if he voted against it. Ask him if he raised any fuss when they rammed that thing down your throats. He didn't. He said he saved you $7 million. The newspaper will tell you it was $5 million, so great. We only got ripped off by $30 million instead of $35 million. Thank you, Mayor Wise.
You know, I wish the fake news would stop. The fact of the matter is, when I was mayor, the bid for that water plant was $42 million. I informed the contractor that would contact the Attorney General's office if they didn't drop the contingency from 25% to 5%. They knocked off $7 million. After I left, I don't know what happened after I left, but while I was there, the bid for that water plant was $37 million. And that's because I threatened them with the Attorney General's an investigation. Now, culture is the third leg of the stool in the viability of any community. Businesses relocate for 3 reasons: good schools, good hospitals, and culture. I think we need to collaborate with museum, the cultural and ecotourism agencies that we have, or departments that we have, and we need to invest in ecotourism. Again, when I took office, we were 36,000 in the black, in the red. We were in the hole. The money they have now that they're spending is based on the fruits of our labor.
Okay, on the strength, the attractiveness for Weslaco, we are working well. I'm glad to say that with the Chamber and EDC to provide or to promote the businesses that we now have, and we must continue working closely with them. The other thing that we need to do as a city is to partner up with projects that the Chamber or the EDC has, anything that's beneficial for our citizens and, of course, our business community. We must be able, or it's very important that we have reliable water, reliable drainage, and reliable sewer to, to attract people to come to our place, and of course, in addition to good streets.
I think that we do need to work together with the EDC and the Chamber, and we also, as an elected official, we need to network with all the business community and also with the schools. We need to see how we can all work together to continue to attract not only businesses and retain them, but also to attract people to come live in Weslaco. This is a beautiful town. It's got a lot of amazing things, restaurants, activities, events. The Alfresco is just an amazing event that attracts people from all over the Mid-Valley community. So we need to work on that foundation and continue to improve and make it stronger and better every single year. But I think the networking is what's most important, because that's how you're going to identify the needs, especially with the business community.
I believe Mr. Wise is next, and for the next question, we ask this often, but it's important that we do. What are the basic roles of the Weslaco EDC, the Chamber of Commerce, and the city, and how should they work together?
Well, EDC is a 4A and 4B corporation. That's 4A and 4B. 4A and 4B is the statutory authority to allow them to collect money and spend money or invest money in the community. It's very limited, the funds that EDC can do, but they can do it to attract business, and that's their job. Their job is to attract business. I think the role of EDC, assuming that they make very reasonable 380 agreements, very reasonable loans and grants to local businesses, as long as they do that, they're going to attract business. The chamber walks hand in hand with EDC. The chamber retains business, so they provide activities and services that are to current or prospective members. You know, they should be mining from members. They should not wait till somebody comes and knocks on the door and says, do a ribbon cutting for me. They should be going out there going, I'll do a ribbon cutting for you, and they join. And as long as you provide value, they're going to be members. It's a member-driven organization, but at the end, the chamber's job is to retain the business that is here in Weslaco.
The role of the three entities is to promote Weslaco and make it a better place to live, to visit, and to do business with. All three, right now I'm happy to say that all three entities are working well together. The three administrators, they visit every week to work on projects jointly that will benefit our citizens. In addition to that, you know, one of the projects that has been very beneficial to our citizens, for example, is the Onion Fest, the business development, business recruitment, the citizen education, and they also have periodic meetings between the boards.
In my opinion, these three entities, they work together with the objective of recruiting and retaining the businesses in the city. The EDC can help to recruit and retain these businesses by offering different incentives, and also the chamber then supports those local businesses. I love seeing those ribbon cuttings on social media and seeing all the support to our up-and-coming new businesses, and we need to support them. We need to continue to support them as a community, and I do think that right now there's a great working relationship between the three entities, but I think we can always look at what can we improve on. We never want to settle. We always want to try to evaluate that partnership, and we want to build upon it, see how we can make it better, and by doing so, we're going to improve the quality of life, not just for the business community, but also for the residents of Weslaco.
The role of the EDC is simple, and that's to create jobs here in the city. When businesses grow and expand into Weslaco, we see increased property tax revenues, we see more opportunities for our citizens, and we see that we're able to provide more services to our citizens. Our partnership with the EDC is a big reason why we've seen such a dramatic increase in property tax revenues since I've been on the commission. The Weslaco Chamber is unique in that not only is it a tool that advocates on behalf of our local businesses, it also serves a need by promoting tourism here in Weslaco. A strong chamber is vital to a strong business community. It's important that the city work with both the chamber and the EDC to promote business growth here in Weslaco. But it's also important for the city commission to recognize that the chamber and the EDC are both separate bodies with their own boards, and we don't tell those entities what to do. Rather, we work with them to facilitate business growth into Weslaco.
Commissioner Noriega, I think no, excuse me, okay. How would you foster the relationship between higher education and the city government, considering post-secondary education being the fastest growing segment of the local economy?
Okay, right now we have been working very closely with STC, with UT-RGV, and with Texas A&M in Kingsville to provide our citizens with to provide our citizens of the valley with access to higher education. For example, SCC, we have the largest or the second largest campus here in Weslaco next to McAllen. The UTRGV, they will be having their business incubator here in Weslaco. In addition to that, they will also be offering classes for their PhD business school here in Weslaco. And Texas A&M Kingsville, they're offering engineering classes to over 100 students here in Weslaco. So we have been working very closely with them.
I think that we have to continue to work well with these institutions of higher learning. We have STC here locally, and which my daughter attends, and it's a fantastic school. She's pursuing nursing. But also we need to try to continue to work and collaborate with our county partners and also with those other institutions of higher learning so that we can not only support them, but also, I think one of the components is to also encourage our youth to pursue higher education in some of these local institutions, and also because they're the next generation of leaders. So the support is vital to those institutions.
You may have read about some of our recent partnerships with STC and UTRGV, and those are evidence of my commitment to continuing to foster those opportunities. We are fortunate now to have a strong business-minded mayor that leads us in that direction, and I've supported him along the way in fostering those partnerships. If I'm reelected, we're going to continue to explore those opportunities, whether it be through public-private partnerships or some other arrangement where we can provide a benefit not only to the institution that's coming in, but to the city, and most importantly, to our citizens. So I'm proud to have been a part of the partnerships that we've formed, and we're going to continue to do so if I'm reelected.
Well, Weslaco is a transportation, a retail, a sports, a health, and education hub for the Rio Grande Valley. We are the center of the valley. We provide invaluable opportunities for young men and women who live in the Mid-Valley area. I'm very proud of the fact that EDC and UTRGV have partnered up for an incubator program, and that's going to be based actually in this building. They're also going to close their doctorate program and relocate it here. So that tells you that Weslaco is a hub. Nat Medical Center and UTRGV and their family practice residency program in Mercedes, a great partnership between our hospital, and it is our hospital. It's located in Weslaco, and the family residency program. What people don't realize is most doctors stay in the area where they had the residency program, a vast majority of them. They don't go back to where they went to medical school. They stay in the area generally of where they attend their residency.
Okay. Let's get the mic back to Mr. Rodriguez. You're up. This is focusing on accessibility to your constituents. How will you, or do you communicate with and keep yourself accessible to constituents?
Well, I've been, because of the fact that I've been in law enforcement for 20 years this December, I've been on on-call status since 2002, which means since 2002, I've been on call in different capacities, and I'm still on call even today as we speak. So what I intend to do is I intend to continue that. I'm available at all hours. I intend to add a second phone line to my home and a email address that's going to be solely for the basis of contacting me for different situations, ideas, concerns, or suggestions. No one individual is the answer. It's a collaboration with our community. We have to work together to address some of the problems. And I think communications is really important, not just during the day, but at all hours of the day.
Generally, I've kept in touch with my constituents via phone or email. I've found over the 3 years that that's probably the most effective way to do it. I have my cell phone number printed right on my City of Weslaco business card, so you can get a hold of me. I work full-time. I'm about to have my 4th kid, and I got a wife that wants me home, so I can't always return a phone call immediately, but I will get back with you at some time, whether it be an email or phone call. Finally, one of the most useful ways to get a hold of me is come to a city meeting. Every city meeting, I walk right out the front door, through anybody that's sitting there, and you can ask Mr. Skinner or if Edward Mejia is here, he gets my ear a lot. I don't see him though, but I often spend hours after the city meeting addressing concerns that people bring to my attention right after the meeting. So I'm there after the meetings if you want to talk to me, or call my cell, or give me an email.
At the last debate, Commissioner Kerr said you can talk to him at Pan de Campo fundraisers, at his church, at La Fresco, at town hall meetings. Well, there hasn't been a Pan de Campo in 2 years. And why do you want to spend $50 to buy a ticket to go talk to your commissioner? You should be able to talk to your commissioner for free. What if you don't belong to his church? Then what? You have to change denominations. You have to change religions. That's not accessibility. Al Fresco, how many do they have? 4 or 5? On Thursday, there's hundreds of people there. If you don't know what he looks like, how are you going to find him? Town hall meetings, I don't know one town hall meeting that District 2 had. I didn't get invited to it. I didn't see it advertised. The best way is, as an infantry officer, I can tell you boots on the ground is the most important thing. You go visit your constituents. You go to Cantú and Los Toritos. You go visit the filoteos on that corner. That's how you do it. You ask them questions. You visit folks. That's what they like, besides accessibility at City Hall and at your office.
Since I have been, when I was first elected back in 2011, one of the things that I have always done, like Mr. Weiss here says, I've always made myself accessible to all the constituents. I don't only go out and block walk or visit people when I'm up for re-election. People know me that I'm always out there, trying to see what's needed, what they need. If they've got any questions, I'm known for that. Aside from that, Facebook, I always respond on my Facebook if they want to inbox me. I also, probably I was one of the first to have her cell phone number on the Weslaco business card. I don't know who else has it, but I have always had it. I've always given it out. I always respond back, immediately, either through a text. The other way is, of course, through emails. But, I've been one that I have always kept myself out there, and I've always been asked, what are you going to do different? I don't have anything to do different because, like I said, I'm always out there talking to people.
This is the last question of the evening. Commissioner Kerr, what are the top 3 issues for Weslaco you plan to tackle if elected during your term?
I was going to say drainage number 1, and it is a priority, but we've talked drainage to death. But after hearing Mr. Wise talk about how he had no money to pave streets or fix water lines, but somehow his commission found a way to rob you of a fraud of a water plant, I think I've changed my mind since I've been up here. I think it's important that we pursue that. We pursue however that injustice was passed on to you, we need to get to the bottom of it, and we need to hold the people accountable that were responsible for it. We need to make it right. And by doing that, not only can we recover monetarily, potentially, but we send a message to people, to former mayors and commissioners, that your corruption and your cronyism is not welcome here in the city of Weslaco. It won't be back here again. If I'm on the commission, I guarantee you I will raise hell if somebody tries to slam another $40 million water plant down your throat.
I think there are 3 issues. Economic development, again, make sure that Weslaco's businesses are maximized. We had the Weslaco 100, where the goal was to have 100% occupancy of all the businesses south of the railroad tracks. Reasonable 380 agreements. We had some horrible 380 agreements. When I became mayor, 5% of our revenues were going to 380 agreements. That's how we got broke. That's how we ended up 36,000 in the red. And we're still paying for those because they're payouts of 10 or 15 years. This current commission is paying on it. He probably doesn't know that, but they are. But fortunately, we were able to turn things around. Again, like I'm proud of Captain Lopez and the department who decided that their interest would be second to the citizens of Weslaco. Drainage issues. First thing I do is make sure we vote on that drainage study, and we start taking bites out of that elephant to make sure, you know, people in District 2 don't pray for rain like everybody else because they're going to get flooded.
Okay, the main issues that I would say that we have in our district and, you know, and of course District 2 is the drainage. I know that Commissioner Kerr says he doesn't want to talk about that, but it's something that we do need to talk about because people out there, like I said, they've had a lot of tears over that, over all the flooding, and it does need to be taken care of. The other one is the wastewater improvements. We need to make sure that all the manholes out there, if they're broken, we need to replace them. The other thing is the fire hydrants. We've got a little over 2,000 fire hydrants. We need to make sure that they are in working condition because, you know, if a fire ever gets to happen around the area that you're at and that fire hydrant is not working, you know, we wouldn't want that. So I know that the fire department takes care of that. In October, they go through all of them, but we do have a little over 2,000 fire hydrants that we need to make sure that we that they are working.
Well, I think we need to continue with the overall infrastructure, which includes drainage, and especially some of our roads. I know that a lot of our roads have been fixed, but there's still a lot of them that are in desperate need of attention. My wife jokes sometimes that if you go down a certain street, it's like a free back massage. You know, so those are serious issues we need to tackle. I myself have had to replace the wheels on my daughter's car 3 times, and it's a burden on not just a family, my family, but I'm sure other families are experiencing the same issues, and especially with the drainage, we have seen a lot of families that were devastated, and I think that's a priority. But most importantly, I think is the fiscal responsibility to the taxpayers. We have to make sure that we're researching and that we're making decisions that are not going to have long-term consequences for the residents of Weslaco. We have to be responsible with the decision-making.
It's time for our closing statements. Each candidate has 2 minutes. We're going to begin. Let's actually keep the mic with Mr. Rodriguez and work our way back. Go ahead.
Well, I have a sincere desire to serve my community. I told you a little bit about, what I didn't mention was that initially my major in college was for music marketing. I thought I wanted to be a rock star. But, you know, God had a different plan for me. And I just saw some amazing things when I used to work at the police department. I gave this city 12 years of service, and I was very happy to do so. I miss it. I miss working here. I miss the brotherhood. And when I used to drive around on patrol or wherever I was, I always used to drive around, and I used to say, one day I'm going to move to this city. I was born here in 1976. I've brought my family back in 2013 here. Our dream came true. We purchased a home in Midpoint Estates. And I live at 2105 Bald Cypress. If y'all ever want to go by, you're more than welcome. My house is open to you. Just bring some pan dulce or something. But I'm running, very simply, I'm running because I love my community. I love my family. I want to honor them. I want to honor my grandparents who always instilled to serve our community. And I honor my parents too, because they've been with me through this journey. This was not an easy decision to make this push for commissioner, but we're going to give it 100%. And one thing I can guarantee you is that if I get elected, that we're going to run a humble term, and we're going to be out there serving our community. And I just thank you for your support. I ask for your vote during early voting and also on election day, and I hope that God gives me that opportunity. Thank you.
Let's actually start with Commissioner Noriega.
Okay, I just want to say that for those of you who have that have stood with me through my first and second election, I thank you. I only ask one thing of you, and that's for our district, for our city, and for a better future, for you all to go out and vote, to please remember to go out and vote for Olga Noriega, District 3, for Our Voice, Our Commission. Early voting starts October the 23rd through November the 3rd, and of course, Election Day is November the 7th, because together we can make Weslaco its best that it can be. May God bless you, and may God bless Weslaco.
Mr. Wise?
I'd like to thank all of you for being here, for the attention. This can be kind of grueling. Running against Commissioner Kerr is based on three things: transparency, flooding, and potholes. Transparency. He's filed 33 conflict of interest statements in the 2.5 years. That's unprecedented. That's probably 5 times to 10 times more than anybody else has. Those are items he can't vote on, and that doesn't even include the items on the budget that he can't vote on because of conflict of interest. And he's not transparent. His card, when he ran the first time, said honesty and transparency. If you look at a conflict of interest statement, you don't know what it's for. It says agenda item 5-6-7. Well, now you got to go somewhere else to try to find out what the conflict is. That's not transparency. As mayor, we received the first transparency award from the state of Texas. We put everything online. We were filming everything we could film so that the citizens of Weslaco could see it. So there is no transparency. And he's a lawyer, I understand. He has clients. But he got elected to represent the citizens of Weslaco. And if he can't, he has to choose. Do you represent the citizens of Weslaco, or do you not vote because you can't vote because of your clients? Flooding. Like I said, in District 2, anywhere else they pray for rain, not in District 2. You see people in the street. I was there 2 weeks ago. And they're trying to stop people from going down the road because water goes in their houses. Potholes. There's a joke in District 2 that if you miss one pothole, don't worry, there's 7 behind it, and the 8th one will get you in alignment. So he complained about his opponent on potholes. Nothing's been done about it. He supports member at large. Again, that's an assault on democracy. That goes against the American experiment that our founding fathers believed in. I humbly ask that you give me your confidence one more time. Elect me as City Commissioner for District 2. I want to thank you for your attention again this evening. I want to God bless each of you and our fine city. Good night and have a safe travel home.
The city has come a long way in the last 3 years, and I'm not taking all the credit for that, but I have been a big part of it. I want to address a couple of things that former mayor said, that nothing has been done about potholes. We've paved 12 miles. This guy could be there for 9 years and not get 2 miles. They did nothing. They didn't pave any streets when he was there. We've done 12 miles. Unprecedented that I've filed a conflicts waiver on 33 items. However, I didn't vote on 33 items. He missed 11 meetings during his last term as mayor, missing out on dozens, if not hundreds, of things he could have voted on. So I would think a mayor abandoning his post a little more unprecedented than a lawyer choosing not to vote for his client against the city that he represents. We already experienced a city commission with Ms. Noriega and Mr. Wise on it, and what did it get us? Massive reductions in force, antagonism and disruption at city meetings, a mayor that skipped out on 11 meetings during his last year in office alone, a commission that did nothing to address water and sewer infrastructure that had been long overdue for years, a police and fire department in disarray, a commissioner that will advocate that her own personal attorney be paid outrageous amounts in fees, a commissioner that will disregard the advice of our own attorneys in an attempt to pay her political friends the demand that the opposing attorney made on the city. And last but not least, I've said it 10 times today, a $40 million water plant brought to you by the Wise Commission. If I sound angry about these things, it's because I am. It's ridiculous that we are having to bear the brunt of this for their mistakes. I'm proud to have come on board and been a part of changing what was there before. The first item I ever put on the agenda, and Commissioner Pena put it on there with me, was to go after the individuals responsible for that water plant. I fought Commissioner Noriega when she insisted on continuing to pay her attorneys outrageous bills without question. I fought against firing our city judge just so that Commissioner Noriega's buddy, Miguel Wise, could be appointed as city judge. I do not use this position to cut heads off my political enemies and replace good people with my political allies that are simply trying to earn as much money off the city with as little effort as possible. That's why we need to continue moving forward. Don't go back. We've already experienced that. Thank you.
I want to thank the candidates for the spirited debate. I'm sure everyone here enjoyed it, and is going to come away educated because of it. Thanks again, and we want to wish you well.